11 weeks worth of racing has come down to this, as we're finally here at the season's final race at the Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth, where at the end of the day, one of two drivers will be crowned the 2014 FARC LoBo Truck Tour champion. And the funny thing is, it is the same two drivers who we predicted would be the favorites to win the title before the season started. So let us show you the points now entering this race and where the two championship contenders stand. As you see, Jeremy Baker, who has led the points for most of the season, has a 52-point gap over Mike Howard. Baker is the only regular who has won a race this season. Howard is winless despite winning 2 races out of 6 last season. Baker also has the most top 5s out of the regulars, while Howard's only top 5 finish came at Talladega. Everybody else in the field is pretty much going for the win only. So now let's take a look at the clinching scenarios for our two drivers. As we mentioned last week at Salem, that Baker had to finish 13th or better if Howard won the pole, led the most laps, and won the race. However, being that Howard did not get the pole today, that is 5 points that Howard will not get towards his championship hunt. However, Howard could still get the 110 maximum for points if he got the hard charger bonus, along with leading the most laps. However, Howard is starting 15th. So even if he did win the race, everybody else would pretty much have to finish where they start or hope that nobody in the back of the field advances further than 14 spots. However, that could totally depend on how attrition-filled this race is. So, possibility of max points for Howard is still possible. However, the odds of it are kind of low. So, in the event that does not happen, if Howard only gets one of the bonuses and wins the race, Baker would now have to finish only 15th or better. Keep in mind that the scenarios we got here are taken into consideration that Howard does not get the hard charger bonus, which is kind of unlikely. Now let's put that in perspective for Howard. If Howard wins the race and leads the most laps, Baker would have to finish 16th or worse in order for Howard to win the title. However, if Howard gets no bonuses and still wins the race, then Baker would have to finish 19th or worse in order for Howard to win the title. But there's one thing to consider. Winning the race earns 20 points more than finishing second. So, if Howard does not win the race, finishes second, and gets no bonuses, then Baker would have to finish last place in order for Howard to win the championship. So keep in mind we have a 29 truck field. But if he does lead the most laps, then Baker has to finish 26th or worse. But that means Howard cannot win the title if he finishes 3rd or worse, regardless of where Baker finishes. So the odds are really not in Howard's favor, as he's going to really have to hope Baker runs into trouble and run into trouble early. Because if Baker does not finish last place, Howard has to win the race in order to win the title. And judging from what we've seen all season, a regular winning the race is very unlikely. However, I will say this about the regulars. The entire field was actually very close together in qualifying, so hey, maybe there's some hope for the regulars after all, as Howard winning the race may not be as far-fetched as it was the rest of the season. So that's where Baker and Howard stand. Now let's take you through the starting lineup for the season finale of the 2014 FARC LoBo Truck Tour season. Remember how I said a regular winning the race is not as far-fetched as it seems? Well, 2 regulars make up the front row as Angel Gray wins the pole for this race, along with Vincenzo Focasato starting on her outside. In row 2, it is Luke Pellerman, who's still looking for his first win this season, alongside Langhorne winner Jacob Wesley. Row 3, it is M&J teammates Osvaldo Ramirez, who won at Austin, and Lawrence Burr, who won at Kentucky. In row 4, it is recently crowned NPCC champion Chuck Johnson, who is here today despite the demise of his family-run team. We'll discuss that a little bit later. And starting on his outside is Stacy St. Martin. Row 5, it is Patrick Johansson, who, like Chuck Johnson, wasn't expected to be here today after a season's worth of engine failures where they finally ran out of engines. However, the team received an engine, so they are able to run today, and they got a pretty decent starting spot to go with it. Starting on his outside is Gio Arias, who has 2 wins to his name this season. Row 6 is Samantha Spires, who's only making her 4th appearance this season, alongside Bradley Carlisle, who's trying to get his 4th win in a row. On the inside of row 7, in 13th, it is points leader Jeremy Baker, who will be starting midfield for this race, and kind of midfield compared to the regulars as well. Due to how well some of the regulars didn't qualify, I'm surprised Baker himself didn't qualify higher. Starting on his outside is Richard Scott. Inside of row 8 and 15th is where Mike Howard will be starting. Remember, he has to at least finish second in order to even have a shot at winning the title. And starting on his outside is Dylan Andrew, who coming off of his best career finish at Salem last week. Inside of row 9, who's only making his third start this season, is Pascal Valley. However, he actually has a 6th place finish at Talladega. And on his outside is Casey Lester, who finished 4th at Talladega. And starting in row 10, we're starting to see some of the back markers. Highest qualifying of the back markers is Izzy Johnson in the 97. On his outside is Texas World winner Dan Edwards. And starting with row 11 is where you can see the rest of the back markers, starting with Jesus Ignacio Chavez III alongside Philip Borland. However, they're regulars. And as you scroll through the rest of the starting grid, here are the rest of the back markers. Despite still being slow, we're not too far off of the pole time. Their speeds were about maybe 8 miles per hour off of pole time. And as you see here, starting on the inside of row 14, it is Dale Cloud, who's coming off of a 4th place finish at Salem. And rounding out the field are the 2 Brian Burke trucks of Drew McDaniel. And starting shotgun on the field is everybody's favorite back marker, Tommy Haynes. So here we go, 101 laps to determine the 2014 FARC LoBo Tour champion. And here we go, green flag is out and the season finale is underway. Angel Gray would lead them to the green flag as Luke Pellerin already has a run on his teammate Francesco Focasato for second as the outside line doesn't get going as fast. Gray solidly in the lead already as the next 3 trucks are running single file behind her. Francesco Focasato is getting freight train on the outside. As here comes Osvaldo Ramirez making a run on Pellerin for second as Gray is going to try to get down there, try to block Ramirez, but Ramirez has a run as they go into 4, and as they come out of, we got some trouble back there as the 2 Focus Autosport trucks get together as Ramirez is going to take the lead before pole setter Gray could lead a lap. And as the second lap continues, Ramirez actually pulls away from second place, which is now run by Jacob West. We got some trouble in the back there. Let's take a look back there, and it points to the Jeremy Baker getting involved in trouble on the second lap. You can't really tell what happened from that angle, as luckily no one hits him, and he's going to keep going without a problem. That's going to be our first caution of the day, once again on lap 2. Now this angle should make it a little easier for us to tell who caused that, as you see them running 3 wide, almost 4 wide, coming out of turn 2. Did Howard move up into Baker? I would not be surprised if that was the case due to the dire situation that Mike Howard's in order to win the championship. It is a possibility that Howard tried to take Baker out right there. Now this angle here should tell us everything. We got it in slow motion as you see them running in a 4 wide situation, and we're going to see if Howard does indeed move up into Baker. I don't know, that one's kind of hard to call. I guess you could say that maybe Dan Edwards moved down into Baker, but whatever the cause of it was, that causes Baker to go into Dylan Andrew, who's going to get a good piece of it. Baker's going to drive away with minimal to no damage, but he's now going to be in the back of the field when they take this restart. But before that happens, everybody will come down pit road under this caution. Osvaldo Ramirez leads the way. However, there's going to be some contact during these round of pit stops. The first one's going to be Dan Edwards, who runs into Jesus Ignacio Chavez III while coming into his pit stall. And the second is going to be Vincenzo Focasato, who runs into the back of Angel Gray coming out of his pit stall. Also, I don't know if you barely noticed Chuck Johnson scraping the side of Angel Gray's parked truck as he was coming out of pit road. So yeah, I don't know what that was all about. And we have our first engine failure of the day. It is of Izzy Johnson, no relation to Chuck Johnson, as that's going to award Johnson last place, as that is big for Jeremy Baker, as now that last place has already been decided. Howard now has to win the race in order to win the championship. That is if he doesn't get any of the bonuses. And while I was talking about that, we have our second engine failure under this caution, and it is that of the 11 of Alvin Waters. So that will rank him 28th. Coming to the restart, Vincenzo Focasato was going to have an issue and would also bring it to pit road. It's not known what the issue is, but he would spend a number of laps on pit road as a result. So things already not looking good for the second place starter. The top 5 would take fuel only during those pit stops, and as a result, Patrick Johansson would lead on the restart, Bradley Carlisle starting in second, Richard Scott in third. But Patrick Johansson, who as we touched upon a bit in pre-race, didn't know if he was going to be here today, as the team originally didn't have an engine to run this race. But he is here, and he is currently holding the lead as Richard Scott tries to take second from Carlisle. Shortly after that restart, Luke Pellerin's going to develop a flat tire on that truck, is going to bring it into pit road, as it seems that Pellerin has no luck in trying to win his first race this season. He's finished second 3 times. He cut a tire while leading in Boston and was held up by a slow truck while leading at Chicago with 2 laps to go. Jeremy Baker is trying to work his way back through the field as he's gotten around the back markers, is now trying to get around Casey Lester and Angel Gray. Contact between Gray and Lester. Gray comes back on the track. Oh no, Baker's involved in that! Baker is on his side. Lester's also airborne, and Gray flips over as well. A vicious crash on the backstretch, and our points leader is involved in it. Here it is in slow motion as you see Lester getting to the back of Gray. Gray turns into the inside wall that comes back up in front of Lester, and Baker pretty much has nowhere to go. Gets hit hard by John Burr, and that impact's going to put Baker on his side, and he actually hooks Lester's truck, and that almost flips Lester over. And then you see Gray get hit hard by Kevin Parks, and that's what flips her over. Parks will continue on, but Gray, despite flipping over, would at least drive it back to pit road. Here's an onboard shot of Casey Lester, as you're going to see the contact here, as Gray then comes back up into him. You're going to see Baker hook the roof area of Lester's truck, and that's actually what's going to get Lester airborne. Luckily, that was more towards the passenger side. Now, I may have mentioned this briefly in the Salem broadcast, but Baker was actually involved in a very similar accident at Texas World, where he was struck in the windshield area of his truck. And this incident is just as scary as that one. But anyway, that's going to take Baker, Gray, Lester, and John Burr out of this race, as it looks like Gray's season is going to end just how it's gone the rest of the season. More importantly, it would mean that Jeremy Baker will finish 26th. However, it doesn't mean that his championship hopes are done just yet. Everybody would once again come into pit road under the caution, and there'd be more contact on pit road as Dylan Andrews is going to run into Pascal Valley's truck while coming into his pit stall, and Jacob Wesley is going to run into the back of Lawrence Burr. So these guys aren't done running into each other on pit road just yet. Luke Pellerin, who was on pit road the moment the caution went out, and being that his pit stall is past the start-finish line, he was able to pass around the pace car and catch the tail end of the field. And due to him not pitting under caution, he is now the leader of the race. So that cut tire actually worked out for the better for Pellerin, as his teammate Vincenzo Focusato is in between him and second place Richard Scott. Remember, Focusato is a number of laps down, as Pellerin is actually pulling away from Scott, as Scott's got a pretty decent cushion over the rest of the field himself. Close call in the middle of the field. Drew McDaniel, who restarted in the top 10, is holding up the field as he's going to get run into by Gio Arias and almost causes another big accident. However, that's going to allow the rest of the field to go by him without a problem. So I guess it worked out. Here is Mike Howard now running in the second position. However, despite Jeremy Baker not being out of the race and will finish 26th, Mike Howard will still have to win the race in order to win the championship. Good news for Howard is, if he leads the most laps, which would get him 5 bonus points, he will be able to finish second and win the title. However, he's still trying to get around Luke Pellerin, who's still in the lead, as now he's receiving pressure from Richard Scott. A couple of laps after that restart, Dan Edwards is going to cut a tire and bring it into pit road. Tough break for the Texas Worlds winner, as he will lose a lap as a result. Patrick Johansson still having a fantastic run, running in 4th, but then he's going to get run into by Vincenzo Focusato. I'm not sure Johansson would appreciate a truck that's running multiple laps down, racing him like that. I'm sure nobody would, as a matter of fact. But now, Focusato's actually now trying to race Johansson. Okay, what are you doing, son? Here's Chuck Johnson running in the top 5 as well. You're probably wondering, what's he doing here despite the shutdown of his family-run team after the NPCC finale? Apparently, the person who purchased the family's truck equipment is fielding an entry for Johnson under the name Cat Motorsports. However, the person decided to remain anonymous for unknown reasons. In fact, the listed owner on the entry list is Charles Johnson Sr., who is Chuck's father and the owner of Johnson Family Racing. So we have no idea who bought the trucks, as the Johnson family did not disclose that information, and who's fielding this effort. The only thing we do know is the team's name. But anyway, as I was talking about that, here is Samantha Spires currently running in the back of this pack, as she actually won the race here last season by having the most dominant truck in the field. However, this year is somewhat different, as it looks like she's struggling to keep up with the main pack. Meanwhile, back up front, Luke Pellerin still in the lead, Mike Howard still in second as they come across the damaged truck of Kevin Parks, as Pellerin looks to go on the outside but changes his mind last second and is going to be held up by Parks, as the top 5 running single file seems that no one's making a move, and this is getting nowhere fast as Richard Scott tries to look on the outside as he's starting to work his way up, but eventually Pellerin would catch on and would quickly get around Parks, as the rest of the field now has to deal with them, and as you see, Scott and Gio Arias get around him as well. Here's Bradley Carlisle currently running in the 10th position. As we talked about in pre-race, Carlisle's entering this race with 3 straight wins, 2 straight coming from the pole. He didn't get a good start today, as he's currently running towards the back half of the field, or the main pack at least, but there's still plenty of time in this race for him to end the season on 4 straight wins before he moves over to the Elite Series next season. The leaders are then going to catch up to Dan Edwards, who's back on track and is about to be put a second lap down, and Pellerin's going to get by him with ease, as you see Stacy St. Martin taking second from Chuck Johnson, as the outside line is now going to get held up by Edwards. But the problem is, Edwards is still on pace with the leaders, and sometimes that could prove to be more of a nuisance than a truck that's off the pace, as you see the pretty sizable lead that Pellerin has. 2 trucks have lost the pack now, and that is Samantha Spires and Vincenzo Focasato. But remember, Focasato is a number of laps down, as you see no one within sight of these 2, and Spires is going to have to hope for a caution in order to bring her back in this thing. Brother Borland would break down on track and would stop on the backstretch. These issues, in fact, would be terminal and would end Borland's day. Caution would not come out for this, apparently. Here's someone else who's having a strong run despite the damage on his truck, and that is Dylan Andrew, who we mentioned earlier is coming off of a career best 5th place finish at Salem. He received that damage on pit road earlier in the race, and it's kind of surprising that he's able to maintain. Oh, we got some contact in front of him, and someone's around. Let's take a look at that now, as it looks like Lawrence Burr gets into the back of Paul Fitch as the field comes to lap him, and sends both of them into the inside wall. Surprisingly, the caution does not come out. Both trucks would drive away from this, however the damage on Fitch's truck would put him out of the race. Burr would continue with a considerable amount of damage on his truck. Meanwhile, back up front, Mike Howard has moved his way back up into second. However, he still's got to win the race in order to win the championship, unless he can get around Pellerin and lead some laps. But Pellerin has been in the lead ever since that race. Oh, wait a second, Pellerin's just blown up! As he pulls to the inside of the track, he is done! That's going to give the lead to Mike Howard, but Chuck Johnson's going for it now, as he now goes to the inside entering turn 3, as they're doubled up behind him, as this is the chance for Howard to lead some laps, but looks like Johnson is going to deny him of that, and Johnson's going to take the lead before Howard has a chance to do so. But Luke Pellerin, once again, in the position to win the race, and it gets taken away from him. That is now the 3rd straight week where he has had an issue while leading the race, and you can't help but to feel bad for him. Meanwhile, back up front, the inside line now overpowering the outside. Oh, contact between Mike Howard and Gio Arias. Dan Edwards goes all the way into the grass. That was a real scary moment there as Pasco Valley cuts through the grass for whatever reason. But anyway, close call there for Mike Howard, as his championship run could have ended right there. Chuck Johnson's still in the lead as the field comes across Kevin Parks again. Johnson's going to move to the outside to get around him. However, he is going to hold up the rest of the field. Johnson actually taking his time getting around him, as then Parks is going to move to the outside and let the inside line go by, which is being led by Patrick Johansson. This gives Johnson a pretty sizable lead, however, the field should reel him in pretty quickly. Because of that hold-up, Mike Howard is now back in 3rd and is about to take 2nd from Patrick Johansson. With Pellerin now out of the race, this is a perfect opportunity for Howard to get in there and lead laps, so he gets the 5 bonus points for leading the most laps. Pellerin has the most laps led so far with 23, so he's got to have to lead more than that in order to have the shot at those 5 points, which could really play a difference in whether he wins the championship or not. If he gets the 5 points, that means he will be able to finish 2nd in this race, and some contact between the 2 of them, as it looks like Howard's not afraid to race dirty to get the lead.
What the fuck does that jackass think he's doing?
As you just heard, Chuck Johnson did not appreciate that at all, but he still hangs on to the lead as they come out of turn 4. Howard still in second as he is desperate to try to get around Johnson and get the lead as he is trying to win the championship. However, Johnson, other than this race, which is a one-race deal, is kind of unemployed right now, so he's trying to fight for a ride somewhere, and Edwin Howard gets in the back of him again.
Until a 56 spotter, if he tries that again on record, it's shit. I don't care if he's fighting for the championship.
Please excuse Johnson's language as his displeasure for Mike Howard continues as he continues to lead this race. On an unrelated note, the Wesley family racing trucks of Jacob Wesley and Richard Scott have moved into 3rd and 4th. Bradley Carlisle has now lost the pack. I don't know what's up with that truck, but this is clearly not the Bradley Carlisle who's won the last 3 races. And unless that team can get a caution now, it looks like 4 in a row to end the season is not going to happen. Carlisle making his final truck start as he will move over to Desert Star's Elite Series team in 2015. Oh, there's some smoke ahead of him. Let's see where that smoke is coming from, and it is from Stacy St. Martin. The engine on the 5 truck has gone up in smoke. Tough break for St. Martin, who was having an excellent run today. I mean, it's not often that the regulars get to contend for the win like this, but unfortunately her day comes to an early end. During all that, Richard Scott has now shuffled his way into the lead. I believe this is the first time he's led today. Gio Arias is now in 2nd, Patrick Johansson in 3rd, and Mike Howard now running in 4th. As you probably saw, there's now only 8 trucks in this lead pack. The top 5 are running single file as it looks like they have a small gap over the back 3 trucks in this pack. And it looks like Arias going for the lead under Scott as they go down the backstretch and into turn 3. Scott doesn't have much help on the outside, and looks like Arias is going to take the lead. Johansson looks like he's going to get 2nd. And Scott's teammate Jacob Wesley looking to get 3rd, but Scott's fighting back on the outside, and they're going 3 wide going into 1, and Scott's gonna drop back as he's now being freight trained on the outside. On lap 48, just a few laps shy of halfway, green flag pit stops will begin. Dylan Andrew will be the first one to come in. Matter of fact, he'll be the only one of the leaders to come in this lap. Don't know if that's such a good idea on his part. Back up front, Mike Howard has worked his way into the lead ahead of Patrick Johansson as Chuck Johnson has a strong run under Johansson for 2nd. As it looks like Howard's going to lead his first lap of the race as nobody comes into pit road this time by. Howard now has to lead 23 more in order to pass Luke Powlin for the most laps led of the race. Kevin Parks is going to be the next engine failure of the race under this cycle of pit stops, and this is going to finally put him out of the race and out of everybody's way. Most of the lead packs are going to come in this time by, with the exception of Mike Howard and Richard Scott, as Johnson, Wesley, Arias, Johansson, and Valley come in for their green flag stops, and Scott's going to come in 1 lap after that, and that's going to leave Mike Howard as the only one of the leaders that has not pitted yet, as he's currently being held up by Drew McDaniel, who's about to go a lap down, as this is going to hurt Howard. Not only will he enter pit road by himself and come out by himself, but he's also being held up by McDaniel as both of them are going to come into pit road together, and I believe they'll be the last ones to come in for this round of pit stops. Now let's see where he'll come out. There goes Jacob Wesley, so we know he won't come back out the leader. There goes Andrew and Arias as he's coming out of pit road. There goes Johnson, as it looks like he's going to come out either 6th, or there goes Valley. So Howard's going to come back out in 7th, as that was a really costly stop for him, plus being held up by McDaniel and coming in by himself. He's lost a ton of ground as a result of these green flag pit stops, and it looks like he's going to need a caution to get back in it because the field's really spread out right now, because if we go the rest of the way green, there is no way Howard will be able to catch up to the rest of the field, and therefore he will not win the championship. But meanwhile, Richard Scott will cycle back out the leader of the race as we are now at the halfway point. Gio Arias will come out of pit road 2nd, Dylan Andrew in 3rd, Jacob Wesley in 4th, Chuck Johnson in 5th, Pascal Valley 6th, as we talked about earlier, Mike Howard in 7th, as he better hope this race doesn't go the rest of the way green. Patrick Johansson in 8th, Samantha Spires, who lost the pack before those pit stops, in 9th. Same with Bradley Carlisle, he's now in 10th. Now here are the guys that are on the tail end of the lead lap. Dale Clow 11th, Jesus Ignacio Chavez the 3rd and 12th, Tommy Haynes 13th, Surprised he's still on the lead lap. 14th, Lawrence Burr, who was involved in an accident that the caution did not come out for on lap 32, and he is the last truck on the lead lap. Drew McDaniel, who was put a lap down, or was about to be put a lap down before the pit stops, is in 15th. Dan Edwards is in 16th, 1 lap down. However, he's off cycle. He will have to come in within the next couple of laps. And Vincenzo Focasato, who was the last truck running, in 17th, 5 laps down. Every truck from 18th on back, starting with Kevin Parks, is out of the race.